Hello everyone, I'm the Sports Wiz 101, and today I'll be giving you my predictions for week 3 of the NFL season. So predict all these games set to take place this week. Last week we had a pretty good week when it came to our predictions. Much closer to what we expect than the 8-8 record that we came up with in week 1. I told you guys that I was shooting for 12-4. We went 13-3 last week. We'll see if we can do even better this week. We'll start in the AFC with the Thursday night game between the Dolphins and the Bills. And this, my friends, is my lock of the week. I'm taking the Bills. They're at home. They're taking on the Miami Dolphins. This is a Bills team that has typically had the Dolphins number as of late anyway. But then you take a look at how these two teams have played to this point. And Buffalo sure looks like one of the teams to beat in the AFC, if not the entire NFL. Meanwhile, Miami, they looked a bit better in the loss to New England than they did against the Colts. But they still look like one of the weaker teams in football. I don't think the Bills will have too much of a problem moving the ball against this Miami defense. And again, the Bills, they just had the Dolphins number, and that's especially true on Miami's side of the ball. When Miami has the ball, they've tended to have the Dolphins number. So I'll take the Bills in my lock of the week. Moving on, it's probably the most surprising 2-0 team in football. It's the Indianapolis Colts. I know there were plenty of people before the season going around saying that the Colts were going to have the number 1 overall pick. And that does not look to be true to this point. They are 2-0, wins over the Dolphins and, more surprisingly, the Broncos. Now they go on the road for the first time to take on the Titans. I feel like this could be a close game. Maybe even closer than the Broncos game, which is saying something. But I think the Colts do come out with a win. They have a 3-0 start against the Titans. And I just don't trust that Titan offense right now. I'm not too sure that they'll be able to move the ball that effectively against Indy. And I got the Colts getting out to a 3-0 start. Steelers and Patriots. This will be an interesting one to take place in Foxborough. And here I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I do think that we could see a classic Aaron Rodgers game from the Steelers quarterback. He has probably arguably the best game to this point of his Steelers run, as he throws a few touchdowns to give the Steelers the win. Texans and Jaguars. I feel like this is where Houston finally picks up their first win. I told you guys last week, I'm not that confident in the Jacksonville offense. I'm still not that confident, even though they go and put up 27 on the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Here they take on a much tougher defense with Houston. And I think that Jacksonville just won't score that much. Houston offensively hasn't looked that good, but I think they do just enough to get the win in Jacksonville. Broncos and Chargers. This will be a great one to take place at SoFi. AFC West battle. Third straight AFC West battle for the Chargers. And they could go 3-0. In fact, I do think they go 3-0 in those AFC West matchups. Just because I think they know how to attack that Bronco defense. They showed that they could do it last year when they swept the Broncos. Here, I think they win yet another one because they know how to attack it. And even then, this Chargers offense has just looked fantastic to this point. I think they get a big win on Sunday. Moving on, Bengals and Vikings look quarterback matchup's a bit different than what a lot of people have expected when this game got scheduled. Because instead of McCarthy versus Burrow, it's Wentz versus Browning. So it's the battle of the backup quarterbacks in Minneapolis. And here, I'm going to go with the upset. This will be my upset of the week. And that will mean Cincinnati comes out on top. Now, I'm a bit weary of the Cincinnati pick. Part of that is just that this is a Bengals team that's not usually supposed to start out this good. They usually don't start the season that well. And a win here means they're now 3-0. And especially now that you take away Joe Burrow, and now they're taking on a Viking defense that's shown to be pretty good. But the Viking offense just does not look good at this point. Maybe moving Carson Wentz under center will help that, but I feel like he would almost be like a help to the Bengal defense as well. And you also have the Vikings without their top running back as well. Aaron Jones was put on IR. So I've got Cincinnati winning this one in a bit of an upset. Jets and Buccaneers next up. Tampa Bay has a couple of pretty good wins against teams that you would think will be at least in the playoff discussion when we get to the end of the year. New York going 1-1. They had a close, they went 0-2. They had a close loss to Pittsburgh in week 1, but then they come back to earth a bit, looking like the Jets that we may have thought we were going to see going into the season as they got blown out by the Bills. So it seems a bit obvious. I'm going to take Tampa. And it does feel like New York's going to have to be able to throw the ball against this Tampa defense. And I'm not too certain that that's going to happen. I feel like Tampa can shut down the biggest strengths of the New York offense. And that'll be bad news for the Jets. Raiders and Commanders. Both teams 1-1. Winning week 1, losing week 2. And what's interesting is it's sounding like the Commanders may not have Jaden Daniels, last I heard. Now, that being said, I am still going to pick the Commanders. I just think the other pieces of that offense are good enough to move the ball against the Raider defense. And I'm still not trusting in an offense led by Geno Smith. So yeah, I'll take the Commanders in this one. Packers-Browns, this is another one that seems fairly obvious. I'll take Green Bay, the team that's looked like a Super Bowl contender to this point, over Cleveland, a team that is 0-2. They've struggled on offense to this point. I feel like the Browns are going to have another bad week on offense this week, and it leads to a fairly convincing Green Bay win. And that'll be Sunday Night Football, where my Kansas City Chiefs head to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Giants. Now, Chiefs come in 0-2. It's a bit surprising that they're still looking for the first win. They probably would have gotten their first win if Travis Kelce could catch a slant in the end zone, but that's a story for another day. Here, it does seem like they're clearly the better team. But I will say, weird things do seem to happen when the Chiefs head to New York to take on either the Giants or the Jets in the Meadowlands. And the Chiefs, just in general, do not fare well against the Giants historically. They're like 4-11 all time against New York. However, I do believe that this Chiefs team is better than this Giants team. I do feel like the Chiefs defense got back on track in the loss to Philly. I think they'll be able to maybe not necessarily shut down the Giants offense, but slow them down enough. The Chiefs offense does just enough, and Kansas City comes out with a maybe closer than anticipated win over the Giants. Now we got Monday Night Football. The Lions and the Ravens will go at it in Baltimore. This will be a big game atmosphere right there, but I'm going to take Baltimore. And this is really leaning on the fact that Lamar Jackson is dominant against the NFC. Yes, this is a Lions team that traditionally is good against the run, but I do think that the Ravens' run game is just another monster compared to everything else. The Ravens are just on another level. Give me Baltimore. And now we go down to the NFC games. Rams and Eagles. This should be a good one. Two good offenses going at it. And this one, I'm actually taking the team I think has a better defense. That's the Eagles. I do feel like this could be a big Saquon game. Just like last year when these two teams met in the regular season. It was a big Saquon game then. And I'll take the Eagles in. This is actually going to be a rematch in the divisional round, which was actually the closest game the Eagles came to losing in their playoff run. Like, the Rams had a chance at the end to come up with a game-winning drive to eliminate Philly, and who knows what would have happened if they'd actually have done that. This being said, I do think the Eagles have the better defense. I think it leads them to a win over the Rams. Falcons and Panthers going at it in Carolina. Personally, I like what I've seen from the Atlanta defense. I think it has another good game against an early season Bryce Young team. And Atlanta goes on to win. Based mostly on that defense. Saints and Seahawks go at it in Seattle, the second loudest stadium in the NFL. And I'm going to go ahead and take Seattle. I'm still not a big believer in Spencer Rattler, but I think that's just part of the equation. I do think Seattle will be able to move the ball very effectively against the New Orleans defense, and it leads to a Seattle victory. Cardinals and 49ers, this will be another game where I'm taking the upset. I'll go Arizona. I just think this is a game where the injuries of the 49ers come back to bite them. So, yeah, give me Arizona. And then finally, the Cowboys and the Bears go at it. I will take Dallas in a bit of an upset. And really, it's just me picking the offense I'm more comfortable with. I'm taking Dallas. We saw them put up 40 points in their overtime win over the Giants. Before that, they were able to move the ball fairly effectively against a good Eagles defense. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chicago just has not looked good over the first couple of weeks. I'm not one to anticipate that changing this week, so I'll take Dallas to get the road win. But there you go. There's my picks for week number 3 of the NFL season. If you like this, please like and subscribe for more to come in the following weeks. I've been the Sports Quiz 101, and I will see you all later.